Anger, fear, and shame are some of the hardest emotions on a marriage. However, they're also some of the most human emotions. So the thing is, how do I learn to recognize when it's happening, and how do I set boundaries sometimes when it's happening maybe to my spouse? How do I cope?
And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding ours, and the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Hi there, we're so glad you joined us for A Better Us. Welcome to our home.
So here's a question for you. Have you ever felt so angry that you feel almost out of control? That your emotions are at the boiling point and the lid on the pot is about to blow off?
I think most of us would say, yeah, I have been that angry. And unfortunately, those moments can often be directed at the person we're closest to.
Doctors Les and Leslie Parrott are here to help us understand what's actually happening in us at that moment. And more importantly, how to best respond to it.
Our kitchen couples will also have some thoughts on that topic.
They are, of course, CFL football great Mike Pinball Clemens and his wife Diane, and youth and children's ministers Eric and Kara Maines.
Then later in the program, the guys of A Better Us get their heads together in what we call the Huddle to talk about the challenge of technology and how to stay connected as a couple in a very distracted world.
Relationship expert Bill Farrel joins us guys with his insights on that topic.
All of that's coming up, so stay right where you are.
And don't get distracted.
You know, anger can be a really toxic emotion. Now, it's a valid emotion. There's times that justify anger, and it's not something we need to bury and pretend like we're not angry. But we also know that when it is loose and it's heavy in our relationship, it really wreaks havoc.
Right.
And it's not healthy.
No, it's not healthy. Anger, fear, and shame are some of the hardest emotions on a marriage. However, they're also some of the most human emotions. So the thing is, how do I learn to recognize when it's happening, and how do I set boundaries sometimes when it's happening maybe to my spouse? How do I cope? Really think of it as sort of an alarm going off. When you feel angry, there's a part of you, even in your brain, that sort of hijacks all rational reasoning and puts you in that mode of protection, and that's what's happening.
Well, it's a little part of our brain.
Yes.
It's called the amygdala. Not that you need to know that, but you need to know there is a specific trigger point in your brain that when it is, like you said, hijacked, you don't have any control anymore. You've given complete control to your emotions, and that's when things get dangerous.
So what you need to do is find a way to set boundaries for both of you to be protected in that angry moment. Recognize it takes some time for the human spirit to move out of that place of irrational
Generally
anger.
about 30 minutes minimum to a little sanity to come down into your cortex, and so you can move from reacting to responding.
Right.
How do you do that? Well, it only takes one of you to go, hey, I think we need a timeout.
Yes.
And let's reconvene in an hour on this. Just saying that and following through is enough to kind of curb that anger that can be so unhealthy.
It's really important that you say it and don't just withdraw without defining it, because when you say it, that's a loving gesture that protects you both. When you just withdraw out of fear or shame, that leaves the other person escalating in their anger.
So there you go. How to put the reins on anger.
Well, we're here in our kitchen with our kitchen couples. We have Mike and Diane, and we have Eric and Kara. And so Les and Leslie Parrott talked about putting the reins on our anger, and it seems like every season of A Better Us, there's usually one or two or three segments on conflict, on anger management, because it's a reality in all of our marriages.
It's just so hard to conquer, really, for
And
most
it's interesting
of us.
that he put actually a physical root to it, and actually a part of our brain, the amygdala, he called it, I think, that actually triggers, and it's almost like you can lose control if you're not careful, and you get irrational, and kind of at that moment that they're suggesting maybe we just need to step back, agree together, okay, let's things are a little crazy right now. Can we just take a break and come back and talk about this?
Yeah, and so understanding that the technical stuff that's going on in your brain is interesting, but really it doesn't help you very much when you've got a spouse that's attacking you in anger. And I think that's what they're talking about, is how do we respond to someone who's attacking us with an angry outburst. And so that can be a really tricky position, because automatically we get defensive and we get in a protection mode. And of course then that makes us turn away from our spouse.
It does, because I find I'll shut down. Like I will immediately shut down and just back, and I'll just be quiet, right? Because I don't respond well to anger and harshness and, bickering. I don't like that kind of stuff. So I immediately shut down. But the Bible tells us that we should be slow to anger, right? We should be slow to anger, and we should really learn to process, right? Think about things before we speak, because our words matter and words hurt, right? And when we speak in anger, we can really hurt our spouse if we're not careful. So we really need to think before we speak, because words do matter.
And it goes on to say, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And when I think of it, the very first thing I think of is trying to remove the stinger. Right? If you get bit by a bee, you want to get the stinger out of there. And so sometimes the other person, right, is being angry, right? But we've said something that we know that angers them.
That's right.
And so sometimes it's better to try to get that stinger out, right? And if we can, but 3V.
Okay.
First the volume.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah. So first the volume, turn down the volume. Right, and then after that, right, after you turn down the volume, you want to validate your partner, right? You want to say something kind, something considerate, right? And then after that, go to another venue, right? So you want to move out of that space into another space. You ask whether it's okay, because all of that gives you time to reset, right? And you may decide that, hey, it's not even worth dealing with this right now, right? But those three things: turn down the volume, right? Validate your partner, and go to a new venue.
And as someone who's on the receiving end of the anger, that takes some swallowing your pride, because you're thinking, wait a second, I'm the offended one here. They're doing the angry outburst on me, and now I'm supposed to validate them. But really, when what does the Bible say? A soft word turns away wrath. Like when we pray for those who are persecuting us, we love those who hate us. Like all of these things, the Bible tells us to do things that aren't really natural in the moment of what we should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that Les said, move from reacting to responding in that moment. And in our situation, I would say, instead of, if Kara's angry at me, instead of step back, it's actually kind of, for me, it's step up to and it's one of the V's, validate. So what I usually say is, you're right. That's one of the key words that I say to Kara, because it validates what she's thinking, and it kind of pauses her anger, and it's just like, okay, he sees what I see.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think that's what's important too, is just validating your partner, and just so they don't feel offended, and then they don't feel like they don't care about my feelings at all, or they don't hear what I'm saying. I think validating them is so important, and then working through that. Why do you feel this way? Why are you coming at me this way? Is there something deeper here that we need to talk about?
You're right.
And I think one of the critical things here is when we talk about validating that partner who is doing the yelling or is doing the screaming, that's not something that we need to live with, right? So that is a way to change the temperature. Now we need to deal with it. At a different time, we need to deal with that part of it, right? The temperature going up, and so there's a place for all of it, but it's really not worth. I found that arguments just weren't worth winning. Right? They cost too much. Winning the argument costs too much.
And some people
unfortunately, their natural reaction is more anger, is more trying to attack, or and if you're in that position where your spouse is that way, it's important to, like you said, Mike, protect yourself. Don't escalate the anger, but find a common ground where you can talk calmly and share your heart and say, you know, this is not helping our relationship, and I know you care about our relationships as much as I do, and we want to be strong and we want to be a better us together. How can we move forward in that?
And in other programs, we've talked about sending up maybe a quick prayer in that moment so that you could react out of what would God have me do? Holy Spirit, what would you prompt me to do in this to diffuse this? And
He helps always.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So good discussion, guys.
Yes.
Thanks so much for coming in the kitchen once again.
Yeah,
and
so much fun.
Yeah, we love having you guys here.
Yeah.
Come back tomorrow night.
Okay. Stay with us. More Better Us.
Everybody's looking for fans. And all of this technology, it's really good at developing fans. But marriage doesn't work at the fan level. We have to take our marriages to a deeper level of that. It's good to have fans, people who celebrate us, people who encourage us along, but we need to be able to take our marriage to a place where our hearts are connected.
Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video. Welcome to the Huddle, where we get the guys of A Better Us, and we just kind of get our heads together, and we're trying to strategize, as you do in a huddle, and how are we going to move the ball down the field in our marriages and become a better us. So we've got Eric Maines over here. We got Dan McCauley. Mike Pinball Clemens. And we got Bill Farrell. Bill's here. Bill's our relationship expert for these huddle segments, and he's just helping us from his knowledge. Like, he's written like 45 books now or something, and probably best known for Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti. If you're wondering what that means, you have to get the book. But this is some good stuff. So we are here at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, Ontario, where the Tiger Cats play, and it also houses the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. And so lots of memorabilia around the walls. You even see a bronze head of Pinball Clemens. There you go. It's amazingly accurate, too.
This is the best of me is yesterday.
No way.
We like the head that talks, actually. Yeah, it works better for the huddle segments. So we've been kind of huddling around a bunch of different topics on these segments here. We're going to kind of sprinkling them in through our seasons of A Better Us. And so one topic that is pretty current, because it's probably something that hasn't, 15 years plus ago wouldn't have been such an issue, but it's this idea of staying connected with our wives in a distracted world. Like, so much distraction out there, from these little guys to Netflix, to all the channels on cable, to everyone trying to advertise to you with their message and everything. It's like information overload. Social media, it's huge. So Bill, we've been always throwing it to you for the kickoff of this huddle segment. Yeah. And so how do we kind of navigate this, or maybe what is the issue to start with?
Well, it's a really important issue, because marriage it's a matter of the heart. Like, if your heart and your wife's heart are connected to each other, you're going to figure stuff out. And it's a theme throughout the Bible. One of the clearest passages, Philippians 1:7. Paul said to this group of people, "It's right for me to feel this way about you because I have you in my heart." And when all of us are carrying our wives in our heart, we tend to give them the benefit of the doubt, and we find ways to work things out. When a couple disconnects their hearts, it becomes about behavior. And as soon as your marriage becomes about behavior, you're in failure mode. Because none of us can be good enough for long enough to meet somebody else's expectation. So keeping our hearts connected, it's a vital part of marriage. And then we live in this world that's given us 1,000 options. It starts with work, because work's demanding and it demands your time, and we all want to do a good job at work, and our wives want us to do a good job at work. But then we've got social media platforms, we have the internet, we have entertainment like crazy. Like we all celebrate you as a football player and having your headshot here, but we also know that sports can consume your day.
Wow.
And all of that has created this sense of everybody's looking for fans. And all of this technology, it's really good at developing fans. But marriage doesn't work at the fan level. We have to take our marriages to a deeper level of that. It's good to have fans, people who celebrate us, people who encourage us along, but we need to be able to take our marriage to a place where our hearts are connected. So it creates this big struggle where none of us can get rid of our phones. We can't get rid of our computers. We're not going to get rid of all the entertainment. So how do we utilize all of that to build connections with our wives? Because if we don't, we're going to find ourselves being judged by our behavior, and at some point we come up short at that point. So it'll be interesting to hear from you guys what you do to keep connected, because we have to use these to connect. But we have to recognize most of the time we're connecting as fans at this level.
I bring new meaning to coming up short, but there's a guy who named Prince E.A. who wrote this poem called Autocorrect Humanity, and the very first line of it says, the average adult today looks down at his cell phone for 4 years of his life. Right? And then it goes on to talk about the dysfunction that it creates, right? But if you think about that, the average adult looks down at his cell phone for 4 years of his life, right? That's 4 years. And so in saying that, I have to have days, my way of doing it is on the weekends, right? I just ditch my phone, right? Now, some weekends I still have it with me sometime, but I try to ditch my phone on the weekend, so that's one way. The other thing I found out is Diane hates when I come into the house after being away all day on the phone, right? So finish the conversation in the car if you need to, right? Sit in the driveway. When you come in the door, be engaged, right?
So have some separation there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Boundaries.
Yes.
So ways to stay connected.
So Eric, I'd be curious to hear from you, because we have to use our phones and our computers to connect.
That's right.
And your generation's probably forced to learn how to do this more than our generation is.
Yeah, the most connected generation, and I guess you could also say the most disconnected generation. Kara and I first have to admit that there's a problem here. Like, we would go home after work, and this is kind of confessing here, but after the average day, Kara and I would prepare dinner, and then we'd sit in front of the TV and watch 3 or 4 episodes. Let's be honest, it's probably more like 6 or 7 episodes of our TV show, whatever it happens to be, in a row. And then, oh, look, it's like 10 o'clock. All right, well, let's go to bed. And then from that screen to this screen, just in bed, and then lights go off, and then but the lights come back on. And we're just like now and I've noticed, like, at nighttime, the phone will get closer and closer to my face, and then I'm just like, why is it so close? And then I go by. But we're disconnected. We're right next to each other, laying next to each other, but we're disconnected because we are on our phones. And honestly, I would love to hear some advice on this. And I know it's as simple as, we'll just put the phone down, and that's true. And but there is still a disconnect. Like the first 6 years of my life, I slept with a nightlight, and then when I was a teenager, I didn't have a nightlight, but now I have a nightlight again. Yeah. It's always on, and I'm just like, what is going on here? I need to figure out what's a practical step that I can just put my phone down and turn to my wife and be engaged, be connected. And this is something that I want to get better at. So I'll be listening in this segment here.
Yeah. And Dan, you're pretty adept with the whole social media world, so I'm interested to hear what you...
I spend a lot of time on it, more than I'd care to, but at the same time, I don't have too much trouble leaving it behind. And my wife and I have tried to get the phones out of the bedroom. So we started plugging them in a counter in the bathroom and leave them in there. I think, health-wise and Wi-Fi signals, maybe there's an argument to be made for that's better, but there's certainly an argument to be made with the fact of not having that extra distraction. We do have a TV in our bedroom, and we're going to watch an episode of something in there a lot. Oftentimes, Everybody Loves Raymond or something, Family Feud, doesn't matter, whatever is on later, or whatever we've DVR'd. And I know there are lots of studies that show that as soon as you introduce a TV into the bedroom, the sex life kind of decreases because you're like you said, you're on your phone or on your TV or whatever until the point where you're exhausted. Just that much. There are lots of options, and these they're great, but then they're bad too, and there's an addictive quality to them for all of us, and I think it just becomes like anything, if you're going to make a change, there's a discipline to it. And if you decide to do it together, again, like anything, you can hold each other accountable to it. There's been a few times where I've brought my phone into the night table, and she's like, we're not having phones, and I thought we should. And she's still on to that. Okay. Yeah.
That's what you get.
So,
and I do want to add that, it's easy to criticize this and say you need to put this down, you need to put it away. But that's not all we need to do with this. We need to utilize this to stay connected. I have the ringtone on Pam's contact is our favorite romantic song. So every time she calls me, I hear our favorite romantic song. I also use this to send messages to Pam that have no other content except my love for her. So we use that to connect. And we also use this to share memories of our kids and grandkids. So there are some really valuable things we can do with this to connect our hearts. So we got to be careful we just throw this away and your relationship will be better. But I've also noticed that people who plan active dates where you can't use these have better relationships. So my wife and I spend a lot of time kayaking because you can't kayak and be on your phone. And so it forces us to connect at a different level without saying this is bad. But it'll never happen by accident.
I finally got a way to get her to kayak.
See? So we have to be intentional about planning dates where we're looking at each other and there's no other goal except to connect our hearts.
And we know because we talked about this in a previous huddle, we talked about so that our wives really their top need is this sense of security. And if there's if they don't feel that we're really caring enough to connect, that's gonna damage that that need. It's not gonna meet that need. And so what if we actively and intentionally look for ways to connect? Maybe it is putting this down. Maybe it is using that to send a love text of some kind. But just realizing that's a huge need for her in our marriage is to have that sense of connection. And so let's get creative. Maybe we talked about romance as well in another huddle. And so that just is something that says, what, I still love you, I still care about you, I don't want to drift away and let technology, help with that negative thing, but I want to find ways to connect, to draw closer and to meet your need. And so let's get creative.
Let me just ask a quick question. As a husband, do you know when your wife's heart's connected to you? Can you tell?
I'd like to say yes.
You can tell, right? Because she looks at you different.
That's right.
She touches you different. Her voice is different. So as men, we're outcome oriented. So if we don't get caught up in, if I do this, it'll work, but we pay attention to what am I doing that's causing my wife to soften towards me,
right?
We will be successful at this. So the key is paying attention.
Yeah.
That as we seek to connect with her heart, if it's working, let's stay with it.
Yeah. That's good.
One thing I just maybe want to mention at the end here is that technology is an inanimate object, right? And to keep in mind that we control the technology doesn't control us. When it begins to control you, you know that there's a problem.
That's good. And also in a previous huddle, we talked about the most important connection is a spiritual connection. First of all, with God individually, and then coming together on that level, making sure we're spending time together, praying together, and even going to church together. We talked about and doing things that promote that kind of connection, because that will build the strongest connection in our lives for a better us. All right, been a good huddle, guys. Yeah, thanks again. And so we're going to end the way we've been ending the huddles. Ready? Break. Okay. Okay, thanks for joining us. Hi, we hope you're enjoying the show.
You know, our vision at A Better Us is to see every marriage become a loving union that creates a safe family haven, building a legacy of hope for future generations.
That's why we feel it's so important to invest in marriage relationships through producing a new episode of A Better Us every week.
Absolutely. If you feel as we do that marriages are worth investing in, then please consider joining us as a member of A Better Us with a monthly donation of $25.
You'll be making a big difference in lives and families, and we'll send you 2 of our special mugs, the mugs that you see our kitchen couples using each program.
Absolutely. And be sure to send us your mugshot selfie, and we'll post it on our Facebook page and on our website.
Simply visit abetterus.tv and click donate to set up your automatic monthly giving. God bless you, and thank you so much for making this program possible and helping us strengthen marriages,
so we can all become a better us. Well, it's been a great program. I so enjoy listening in on you guys when you're in the huddle.
And our topic was so relevant for today. We need to realize that technology can have a negative impact on our relationship. It's such a huge distraction, and it can easily get in the way of our heart connection in marriage.
It removes our priority from focusing on protecting and deepening this relationship and replaces it with a lot more trivial, shallow distractions.
Now, keeping our hearts connected is the goal. As Bill Farrel said, if your hearts are connected to each other, no matter what you're facing, you're going to work things out.
But that frustration with a spouse that is easily distracted can lead to what we were talking about in the kitchen, dealing with anger.
It's so true that, as Dr. Leslie Parrott said, anger, fear, and shame are some of the hardest emotions on a marriage.
And with anger, we know that it can quickly get out of control. But it was interesting to learn that there's actually a part of our brain that gets hijacked when we respond emotionally instead of rationally.
But we don't have to fall prey to it. We can recognize the signs and take steps to regain control before we cause damage. But it's not easy. We often know the right thing to do, but we just don't have the inner strength to do it.
What we have discovered is that our inner strength is tied directly to the strength of our relationship with God. Because a growing relationship with Jesus changes us from the inside out. Our actions and reactions, they start reflecting what the Bible calls the fruit of His Spirit. We start showing more joy and love and peace and patience to those around us.
We've often said that the best thing you can do for your marriage is to develop your personal relationship with Jesus. Not only does He meet our deepest needs, but He helps us to love our spouse in the way that He loves us. That's graciously and unconditionally.
If you're not sure how to begin that kind of relationship with Jesus, we encourage you to call our prayer line to talk about it. And if you have a concern that you feel needs prayer, it would be our privilege to pray with you.
You may also want to check out the resources available at our website at abetterus.tv.
We're so glad you've joined us today. And remember, with God, there is always hope to become a better us.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
And you can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
Enjoy! Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.